Recently, I read an article by financial analyst Chuck Bentley, who brought to light a number of things that he believes will take place in the year 2012. Much of it I felt was in line with what Bible prophecy had to say would be in the last days. Here I will pick up with his article that states about more sovereign debt crisis. And what it says is last year we saw double the normal volatility in U.S. markets than any single year since 1970. One, in spite of the roller coaster ride, the S&P 500 ended the year with little overall change from when 2011 began. Seasoned experts are finding that the market is not moving on the fundamentals that once guided it, but is instead reacting to government policy changes, news from the Eurozone, and an underlying insecurity about whether an investment portfolio should be at risk or safely hedged in case there's another meltdown, as happened in 2008. It should not surprise anyone if we see more of the same in 2012. The global debt crisis will only get worse, even after every effort is made to convince us that the problems are solved. I expect Greece and Italy to continue avoiding default in 2012, despite the reality that they've been essentially bankrupt for a long time. Japan's problems will also increase global volatility as it proves unable to find a way out of its own debt crisis. New debt will be piled upon old debt in Western nations to prolong the extend and pretend policies that have been employed to rescue the global economy. The problems in Europe and Japan will temporarily benefit gold and the U.S. dollar. However, Japan's end-of-the-year announcement that it will trade with China in yen and not in the U.S. dollar is yet another vote of no confidence in the world's reserve currency. China is gradually shifting away from the dollar as political gridlock in Washington has demonstrated our inability to solve our fiscal problems. Now moving on to the U.S. economy. The U.S. economy will be disappointing due to slow or no real job growth, due to the Obama administration's need to reflect better overall numbers leading up to the election. Most of the so-called improvements in the unemployment picture will likely be the result of new creative ways to express the data. While there was much hoopla last month over the official unemployment rate falling to 8.6%, the real unemployment rate, which includes those workers who have simply given up looking for jobs, is close to 16%. The reality of the unemployment crisis, regardless of the positive reports from the White House, will continue to hold down economic recovery and residential real estate prices. With housing values remaining soft, interest rates will also remain artificially low. Like the stock market, companies are unsure whether to invest in expansion or minimize risk until volatility is reduced. Therefore, many corporations flush with cash will stay in wait-and-see mode until after the election. Although severely weakened, the overall performance of the U.S. economy will remain among the strongest in the world. Even with the mountain of new regulations coming out of Washington, the U.S. remains home to some of the world's greatest entrepreneurs. Frankly, this is just another reason why I believe that when it all is said and done, that the U.S. will turn out to be Mystery Babylon. I still believe that as we move into the tribulation period, once the rapture takes place, that the U.S. will still remain the leader in the global economic community. Of course, this jives with what many Bible prophecy teachers believe. Many believe that the Mystery Babylon would turn out to be the Catholic Church, or should I say the Vatican. Frankly, I believe the Catholic Church is a part of Mystery Babylon, which would be the religious side, and the United States is the financial side. So even if I have misinterpreted this situation, I at least have half of the position correct. Others believe that it will actually be Babylon, which is in Iraq, modern-day Iraq. But the description of Mystery Babylon in Revelation chapter 18 depicts a country or city or whatever the case may be that will be extremely wealthy and will make the rest of the world rich. If we are living in the moment that at this present time the U.S. is the only country in the world who can make claim to this particular Bible prophecy. Of course, as time goes on, that very well could change, but most analysts see the United States becoming the world, remaining the world leader in the global economy for years to come. Now, moving on to the 2012 U.S. presidential election. There is more at stake for the future of this country in the presidential election of 2012 than any other in my lifetime. This is Chuck Bentley speaking, of course. The questions on everyone's mind are straightforward. Will the majority of voters support a clear and unapologetic move towards bigger government and crony capitalism? I would call it phony capitalism, where profits are privatized but losses are socialized and paid for by taxpayers. While we vote for more out of control spending, will we vote for more out of control spending, more debt, and higher taxes? Or will the President Obama and profligate spenders in the House and Senate be voted out? This highly charged election promises to be the lead news story throughout 2012. Tensions will be high on both sides of the political aisle. Expect social unrest in major cities on the east and west coast. Unions, government workers, and the Occupy Wall Street gangs will be out in force. I expect outbursts of protests leading up to the election, and I fear severe civil upheaval, possibly even rioting, if the election is close but favors Republicans. The battle over ideology is much clearer than in 2008, and both sides are gearing up for an epic political battle for the White House and Congress. Now on to geopolitical hotspots. New and historical shifts in geopolitical alignments are likely to happen in 2012. It seems apparent that China is trying to uncouple itself from the Western debt crisis and is seeking stronger financial cooperation with Asian nations, including Japan. Meanwhile, European alliances are strained, perhaps nearly to the breaking point. There will be more talk of an EU breakup, particularly if Greece or another debt-laden European nation is allowed to default. With America's military forces spread thinly across the globe and financial tensions between nations increasing, the possibility for war to erupt between historic foes is higher than normal. Europe, Israel versus Iran, and North Korea versus South Korea are key areas of volatility to watch. Long-standing dictators in Egypt and Libya have been deposed by social revolution. There is the very real danger that Islamic fundamentalist regimes will come to power in these countries and elsewhere. The so-called Arab Spring has the potential to become a Middle East uprising against Israel, particularly as tensions rise between the Jewish state and Iran. Of course, the Bible is clear that in both Psalm 83 and in Ezekiel 38 and 39, this will eventually take root and war will commence in the Middle East. If you have been following my reports for very long, you know that the alignments between Iran, Russia, and Turkey and other Islamic nations have taken shape and are very much ready to bring this prophecy of Ezekiel 38 and 39, the battle of Gog and Magog, to life. Israel now also has a reason for for Russia to come down to take a spoil, and that is a massive shale oil find, which many estimate to be in the neighborhood of 250 billion barrels of proven oil reserves, which is rivaling all of Saudi Arabia's 260 billion known reserves. And that doesn't even include the many other explorations that are going on that could yield mammoth oil and gas reserves. What many don't know is that Israel is their oil possibilities are virtually unknown because of over the years major oil companies have virtually ignored Israel due to the threats from the Islamic world that if they did explore in Israel that they would be cut off from Arab lands and Islamic lands. Since that is the case, virtually all of Israel is untouched. Many believe with the recent findings in Israel that Israel is the new uh, oil exploration area for the next decades. Moving on to more attacks against Christianity. This is something that should not be overlooked. I am expecting a 2012 announcement by CERN or CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research, that the God particle has been discovered or at a minimum verified to exist. This will embolden neo-atheists such as Richard Dawkins, Bill Maher, Sam Harris, and others to of their ilk to launch more virulent attacks against Christianity. These anti-God activists will continue their campaign to convince the world of the supremacy of humanism over faith. As we draw closer to the end of 2012, as you know, many will try to take away from Bible prophecy and give rise to the Mayan calendar. Of course, the Mayan calendar is nothing more than just a made-up, fictitious end-time scenario that even the Mayans believe has no validity. But I suspect that many will search my site and others just to know exactly what the end times has in store as we move into 2012. Of course, the rapture of the church is the next big thing I believe on God's prophetic calendar, and every day that passes is one day closer to this eventuality. In other news, a poll conducted last month shows that nearly half of all Palestinians will never recognize Israel's right to exist as the national homeland of the Jewish people, even if a comprehensive peace agreement that meets all Arab demands is achieved. Frankly, this is nothing new, and as we know, peace will be established despite this poll, and the global community will force Israel or force a peace agreement with Israel onto them, despite the fact that the Islamic world has no desire to bring about peace with Israel. But peace will come, and land will be swapped, and this will give way to the Islamic world's real desire, and that is to eventually overthrow Israel. But in the meantime, Palestinian officials say that they will resume their effort to gain UN membership, and that they could launch a non-violent third intifada because they see no chance of reaching a peace deal with the current Israeli government. The Palestinians had put their UN bid on hold to participate in informal Jordanian-sponsored talks with Israel that began at the beginning of the year in Amman. The Middle East Quartet, the United States, the European Union, the United Nations, and Russia had urged the parties to submit proposals on borders and security by January 26, with the goal of reaching an agreement by the end of 2012. But with the proposals deadline approaching, officials here said Thursday that they do not expect any breakthroughs. As far as Bible prophecy is concerned, you shouldn't expect any breakthroughs until after the rapture of the church. I do not expect this situation to resolve until Christians have been taken from this world and the man of sin is revealed. This is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.